Hey, Bitsy Lou Who, how are you feeling, darling? Feeling all right? My Kindle's acting up. Or not my Kindle, but my Kindle app is acting up. Hey. Who, Ori said she's going to have her Ori contraption and her Nina contraption tonight. We'll see. I asked her which one she's going to be on here with, and she says, I don't know. Come on. My Kindle app is just spinning. Oh, I'm so glad you're feeling better. So glad you're feeling better. Yay! Downloaded. Downloaded and then I hit something and it ended on. Yeah, she'll surprise us. She usually does. Okay. Boop. Oh, there's a Nina in this book. Oh, it's spelled Nina. Some people call it Nana. I knew a Nana, but I'm going to call it Nina tonight. Let's see how much. Think about getting an ARC or a beta book. You can't always tell how far along everything is. Okay. I'll read until I feel like I got enough going here. There she is, the lady of the hour. How you doing, darling? There we go. How's it going? I have sung Ebony and Ivory all day to myself. That's the song that's been in my head. You know, every time you're on here, that's what happens. There we go. Every time I have to deal with you, woman, that's what happens. Is it Nina like our Nina, or is it Nina? Because I grew up with, well, I didn't grow up. She was mama's cousin. It was Nina. So I'm just curious how you want me to say it. With an I or with an I sound or with an E sound? E-I-E-I-O. No, I have a McDonald's stuck in my head. Who else we got on here tonight? I'll be outside this afternoon, about wore myself out. I went for my walk and then I played with the dogs and then I sat out there and probably got eat up by, like Nina. Okay. And probably got eat up by bugs. No one bit me there because it's itching already. And you should have put a devil face after that, like our Nina. She'll probably show up as Ori tonight. How can, when you're working at home, you feel like you need a day off? Why is that? Usually it's the drive in and the drive back home every day that gets on my nerves, but no, I just need time off. Whew. At least I'm warming up now. I came in, it's so warm outside. It's pushing 90 out there. It's like 87, 88, 89, something like that out there right now. Or it was 15 minutes ago. And come in and he's got all the ceiling fans on and the air conditioner going. I was like, burr. I was like, chilly. All righty. 8:05. So let's go ahead and get started here. All righty. So I don't have a cover for this. It doesn't. Gosh. And the copy that I got doesn't have a cover. If you need to see the cover, it's really cute. It's a couple, and it's on the Bootnook page. It's called All Around the Sour Gummy Patch. Cat? Oh, Summer Patch. Okay. Vinci, it's Ori. So, prologue, July 4th, 1995. I had been married for 5 years at that point, or getting ready to be married for 5 years at that point. In September, I would have been married 5 years. Merle. Look at those two. Look at the two of them together, Ida. They are going to get married one day and live happily ever after. I said to my best friend with a chuckle as we sat on our front porch sipping on some of my famous sweet tea and snacking on some donuts from these sweet treats. Watching our two grandbabies play nicely together was a rare but welcomed treat. I don't know about all of your happily ever afters for Nina and Trey, but it's nice to see them getting along, Ida replied, taking a bite of her donut, looking out into the front yard and watching the two 6-year-olds run and play did bring a smile to her lips. Ida, hush. Those two are meant to be. They always have been, I said, slapping my best friend's knee. You can't tell me that it isn't fate that both of them kids decided that didn't have what it takes to be mothers and left their kids with us. They have been playing and fighting with each other since they were babies. Mark my words, Ida Walker, we are going to be sipping tea and eating cake at Trey and Nina's wedding. They are still babies, Ada. Those kids. Those two are still babies. Those kids are only 6 years old, my best friend and business partner said, giving me the side eye. I knew the look very well. I have been on the receiving end of it most of my life. Ada was always the more level-headed one. She made sure... What? Hold on, my brother is texting. Oh, good gosh, I don't even know. Ada was always the more level-headed one. She made sure that I didn't get too carried away with my crazy ideas. I know. I just have a feeling those two are going to end up together. Grandma! Nina screamed out as she ran towards the house with Trey following close behind her. Turning to look behind her, she says, I'm going to tell. Oh, goodness, I sighed, standing up. Come here, baby. What did that knucklehead grandson of mine do now? I asked, not sure if I really wanted to know. Trey could be a mischievous one, just like his mother used to be. I see so much of Barbara in that boy. It still breaks my heart that she left him the way that she did. I still have hope that she will come back home and be the kind of mother that he needs. Nana Merle, Trey said that you wouldn't make me any more of my gummies if I wasn't nice to him, Nina informed me as she ran into my outstretched arms. Honey, one day I'm going to pass my secret recipe on to you, I whispered into Nina's ear as she squeezed me tight. She was such a sweet little thing, the spitting image of Ada's daughter, Lane. Lane was the sweetest person ever and best friend of my own Barbara. Both girls were married and pregnant to their high school sweethearts around the same time. I always thought that they would raise their kids together, not run off and leave them. Trey, what did you do to my baby? Trey, what did you do to my baby? Ada said, trying to hide the giggle that clearly wanted to escape. Nothing, ma'am, Trey said as he made his way up the stairs to the porch, keeping his eyes trained on the ground. He made his way to the porch swing and plopped down on it. Why can't you just be nice to Nina? I asked, knowing that he loved her and didn't know how to really show his true feelings. Nana, she is a girl. She gets upset over every little thing, Trey said, swinging in the old swing just like his mother did when she was his age. Taking a deep breath, I walked over and sat down next to him, placing my hand on his lap. I said, You're going to marry that girl. Be nice to her. Gross! Trey said, hopping up and running to the door. Nana, is there any candy from your shop? Boy, grab the bag of sour gummies and share them with Nina, I said with a smile. Watching my grandson search for the bag of homemade sour gummies that I had hidden, I knew that one day he would realize that I have known for a long time. His heart belonged to Nina Logan. They would eventually stop playing these silly games and admit their love for each other. Okay. Chapter 1, May 20th, 2019. Nina. Nina, I am so sorry for your loss. I heard a voice say as the front screen door of my grandmother's house slammed against the wood frame. Looking over to where the noise came from, I saw a blast from my past. Trey fell from my lips as the glass of sweet tea that I was holding hit the floor. Baby, are you okay? My grandmother asked, rushing to my side. Grabbing my shaking hand, she wrapped me up in one of the hugs that I had been receiving for as long as I can remember. Trey tumbled from my lips again in a whisper as my eyes locked onto his. Making his way across the crowded room, he stopped directly in front of me. Nina, Miss Ida, I am so sorry that it took me so long to get back home. Trey Walker, is that you? My grandmother asked as a huge smile spread across her face. It is so good to see you again. What's kept you away for so long? Miss Ida, Trey cried as he moved to wrap my grandmother up in a hug. I should have come back home sooner. Why didn't she tell me that she was so sick? Oh, baby, your grandmother would have wanted you to live your life. She didn't want you to feel obligated to come back here and take care of her. She knew she had me, and I wasn't going to let her be alone or in pain, my grandmother whispered as she dropped her arms around me and moved them over to the sobbing man standing in front of me. Trey let his tears flow as he stood in the living room of my grandmother's house and cried in her arms. I felt like I was intruding on their moment and wanted more than anything to be anywhere else, but I just couldn't make my feet move. Pulling away from Trey, my grandmother looked up at him and wiped away the tears that were still flowing. She didn't want you to come back home and take care of her. She wanted you to live your life and follow your dreams. Trey, I promise you that Mora was well taken care of. When I wasn't looking after her, Nina or Sandra were. She was with family. I will never be able to thank you for all that you've done, Trey said as he leaned down and placed a kiss on my grandmother's cheek. Is there anything I can do now to help? Everything is taken care of. Nina and Sandra have really stepped up to help. Winking over at me, my grandmother held out her hand. Do you remember, Nina? You two used to fight and make up all the time when you were younger. Hi, Nina, Trey said with a sad smile. I am so sorry for your loss, I said as I took a step closer to Trey and my grandmother. We all love Miss Merle so much and will miss her terribly. Thank you for your kind words. Both of you have always been family to Nana and me. She was my sister, not by blood, but by love. I don't know what I'm going to do without her, my grandmother said with a quiver in her voice. She had been so strong since Miss Merle's death, and I honestly don't know how much longer she'll be able to hold it all together. Wrapping my arms around my grandmother, I said, I love you so much, and I'm here for you. I'll miss her too. Oh, sweetie, I know you do. She loved you like you were her own. She always hoped that you and Trey would stop being so stubborn and admit that you loved each other. I know she wanted the two of you to take over the sugar shack and run it together. Looking uncomfortably around the room, Trey said, That is one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, Miss Ada. Can I come down to the store sometime this week? Boy, you own half the store. You can come down anytime you want. I am usually there in the mornings to open and Nina comes in to help out around noon. We are really busy there right now. So why don't you come by the house for dinner one night? How about if I come down to the store on Wednesday? I will grab some donuts from V's and some of her famous sweet tea. Her sweet tea is the closest to my grandma's. Now, you are right about that, my grandmother said with a chuckle. That sounds like a date. And make sure to grab a gallon of tea. Resting her hand on Trey's broad shoulder, she added, It really is nice to have you home. Allenville hasn't been the same since you left us. It really it is really good to be back home. I just wish it were for a different reason, Trey said sadly as he looked at my grandmother tenderly. There have been so many people around here who have missed you. Why don't you make the rounds and then come back to chat with an old woman? I have missed you so much, Trey confided as he leaned in to hug my grandmother one more time. Looking in my direction, I felt a chill run down my back as Trey's eyes locked on mine. The familiar flecks of gold in the dark brown orbs reminded me of a simpler time. I don't know why Trey Walker always had this effect on me, but now was not the time for me to even be thinking about him as anything other than an old acquaintance who just lost his grandmother. What are you guys thinking? You're so bad. You're so bad, Ori. Let's see. Smiling at him, I said, It's been a while. I instantly regretted the words that just fell out of my mouth and wished that I could take them back. Could I sound any more like a lovesick child right now? You look good, Nina. There was no denying the chuckle in Trey's voice or the twinkle in his eyes as he continued to stare at me. You could have kept in touch, you know. A phone works both ways. You could have picked one up and dialed my number, he shot back at me. Now really isn't the time or place for you two to be acting like children. My grandmother chuckled as she wiped a stray tear that had escaped. Merle would have loved to see the two of you together again. We are not together, Trey and I both exclaimed at the same time, causing everyone in the room to stop what they were doing and look at the two of us. Sure you aren't, my grandmother sassed as she made her way over to the rocking chair that sat in front of her picture window and sat down in it. Looking at Trey and I standing together, there was a look of peace that came over her. It was like the two of us together made everything right in her world. Chapter 2. Trey. It really is nice being back home, I said aloud to myself in the empty house that I had called home for most of my life. Looking around my grandmother's home, I couldn't help but feel her presence. Why did you leave me? I felt the tears start to build up and was thankful that I was alone. Enough people had seen me cry already today. I am still right here, Trey. I never left you, a familiar voice whispered in my ear. Looking around the big bare room that I was standing in, I whispered, Nana. I couldn't stop the tears that began falling. I knew in my head that she was gone, but my heart was not ready to accept it. I needed her arms wrapped around me. Knock, knock, knock. Trey, are you here? Nina's voice called out from the other side of the front door. I brought you something to eat. Come in. I called out as I took a deep breath, wiped the tears from my face, and started to make my way to the front door. Walking across the squeaky wood floor, I couldn't help but think of all the times that I spent running around this room looking for the bowl of sour gummies that my grandmother would try to hide from me. Replacing the floor in here is one of the things I will need to do to get this house ready. I'm sorry, Nana. I should have done it sooner for you. I mumbled to myself as I reached the door, pausing for a quick moment before opening it. I'm so sorry to bother you. My grandmother asked me to bring a plate over to you. She thought that with everything going on, you would not have had time to stock the kitchen yet. Nina rambled as she fidgeted in the doorway. You're not bothering me, I said, shaking my head as I stared at the beautiful woman that resembled the little girl who used to drive me crazy when we were kids. Are you sure? Shifting her weight from one side to the other, she stared nervously at me. Here, let me take this from you. Grabbing the box of food that she was holding, I couldn't help the smile that teased at my lips. I smell Miss Ida's fried chicken and some sweet honey biscuits. There's some collard greens and chocolate cake in there, too. She packed enough to last you a few days. Or enough to share with an old friend, I said, hoping that Nina would join me for a bit. She was just what this old house needed to brighten up a bit. Staring at the woman in front of me, I couldn't help but wonder when she changed from the little girl who used to drive me wild. I don't want to bother you, Nina said quietly as she gazed down at her feet. Please, Nina, for old time's sake. I could really use a friend right now, I admitted. Are we friends now? Nina asked as she raised her head and looked at me with a questioning eye. We were always friends. No, I seem to remember always annoying you. You couldn't get away from me fast enough, she challenged me. Looking into her hazel brown eyes, I reached my free hand out to grab one of hers. Nina, I'm asking an old friend to have a meal with me. I don't want to be alone right now. I have no idea why I admitted that to her. I instantly wished I could take those words back. Let me run next door and tell grandmother that I will be a while, she quietly said, surprising me. Come right on in when you get back. The door will be open for you. Just like old times, Miss Merle never locked her doors. This house has always been a second home to me. Then I think you should come home and have lunch with me, I teased, hoping that I didn't say anything to offend her and make her change her mind. I will be right back, Nina said with a small smile. She turned around and made her way down the front steps. Trey, Nina called as my front screen door slammed shut behind her. I could hear her footsteps on the old wood floor in the entryway, and my heart skipped a beat. Back here, I called out. Placing the final dish on the table, I turned to face Nina as she made her way into the kitchen. You changed? I asked, surprised that she was now wearing a pair of cut-off jean shorts and a light purple tank top. Her long brown hair was in a loose ponytail on the back of her head. I was going to head out to Ruby to see some friends at the mall before you asked me to hang out with you. You didn't have to change your plans for me. We could have done this another time. I felt bad causing her to change her plans. I didn't stop to think that she may have already had plans. It had been over 10 years since I left Allenville, my grandmother and Nina to go to college and try to find my mother. My grandmother was the only person that I kept in contact with, but Nina Logan was never far from my thoughts. I don't know what it was about the annoying little girl from next door, but she always found a way to drift into my thoughts. My grandmother always used to say it was because we had unfinished business. I always laughed and told her to stop trying to set up something that would never work. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Grandma was right all along. I wish she were here right now. Trey? Trey? Nina asked gently as she waited in the doorway. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said with a smile. I was thinking about Grandma and something she always used to say. What was that? Nina inquired as she made her way deeper into the kitchen, pulling out a chair from the handmade wooden table that my great grandfather made for my grandmother when she bought this house with my grandfather. Nina stared at me. It was like she was waiting for permission to sit down. Sit, you know my grandmother. She was always talking about something, I said, hoping Nina would drop the inquisition and move to something else. Miss Murrell was always talking or making something sweet in this kitchen, she said with a smile and a bit of sadness in her voice. I know that you did a lot to help my grandmother after I left. Thank you, I said as I sat down in the chair across from Nina. You don't have to thank me. Miss Murrell was family. Sitting down, Nina reached her hand out and rested it on top of mine. That makes you family too, even if you don't act like it. Whatever, Nina. Feeling a spark from her touch, I quickly pulled my hand away. How long are you planning on staying in Alabama for? Nina asked as she pulled her hand back. I don't know yet. There's some things I have to deal with first. One thing you don't have to worry about is the sugar shack. Actually, that is one of the first things I have to deal with. I know that my grandmother left her half of the store to me. I need to talk to your grandmother and see what her plans are. No, you have to talk to me. Grandma transferred her half of the store to me when I graduated. Why am I having a hard time saying that word anymore? Graduated from business school. What? I asked, knocking over my cup of sweet tea. I jumped up to grab something to clean the mess up I just made. I didn't know about that. My grandmother never told me. It wasn't her business to tell. That was my grandmother's decision to give me her stake in the store, Nina defensively informed me, standing up from her seat. She had, maybe it was a bad idea for me to come here. Nina, wait. Throwing the towel that I just grabbed down over the mess that I made my way around the table and grabbed Nina's arm before she could leave. I guess we need to talk about selling the sugar shack. Chapter 3. Nina. You girls got awful quiet all of a sudden. What happened? Sell the sugar shack! I screamed into the air as I paced my bedroom. Who the hell does he think he is? He leaves home the first chance he gets and only comes back when his grandmother dies? Where was his ass when things got tough? Where was he when he needed his help and support? Plopping down on my bed, I took in a huge gulp of air. Well, I'm glad that you stopped to take a breath, my grandmother said gently as she sat down on my bed next to me, rubbing my knees. She said like she used to do when I was a little girl and angry at the world. She suggested, "What's he making? It smells good. Maybe we should have a sit down with him. Find out what is really going on. The way you are ranting and raving, I doubt that poor boy had a chance to get a word in." My grandmother was always the peacekeeper. In this moment, I needed her to be as upset as I was. I needed her to be on my side. The only words that I want to hear out of Trey Walker's mouth are, the sugar shack is yours and I will never bother you again. Who does he think he is? Nina Logan. I know you were upset, but I need you to calm down. That boy just lost his whole world and you didn't even give him a chance to explain. Grandma, he didn't even try to explain. He told me he was going to sell the sugar shack. I knew that I sounded like a bratty child, but I didn't care. There was no way I was going to let Trey Walker breeze back into my life after all this time, sweet talk me, and then take away the second most important thing in my life. The Sugar Shack was not just a candy store to me. It was my history and my legacy. My grandmother and Miss Merle were both stitched into every ounce of that store, and I was not giving it up without a fight. Trey Walker thought that he was just going to take it away from me, he had another thing coming. I was prepared to fight him with everything that I had in me. I already lost Miss Merle. I knew that my grandmother wasn't going to be around forever. No one, and I mean no one, was going to take the Sugar Shack away from me. Nina, Giselle Logan, my grandmother shouted to get my attention. Grandma? I asked as I came back to the here and now. I had gotten lost in my thoughts and totally tuned her out. Nina, I know that you are upset right now. I think you should cool down and talk to Trey again. Maybe, just maybe, you misunderstood him. Placing her hand gently on top of my shaking one, mine's under here shaking like crazy just to do this. Grandma looked at me and smiled. The Sugar Shack was always meant for you two to run together and eventually pass on to your own children. I can't let him take it away from me. Not listening to a word my grandmother just said, I turned to look out my bedroom window and saw Trey looking out of his window. He looked sad and lost. Go talk to him, my grandmother urged as her eyes followed mine and met Trey's. He has lost everything that was important to him. He may just need a little reminder of what he is trying to get rid of. Turning my attention back to my grandmother, I couldn't help but finally hear the words that was coming out of her mouth. Grandma, what am I going to do if he wants to sell our store? Nina, we have always figured things out. Standing up and slowly making her way over to the window, Grandma sent a wave over to Trey. When he waved back, she lifted my window and waited for him to do the same. When he did, she leaned out just a bit. Do you have any plans for dinner? Excuse me, he asked timidly. Trey Walker, do you have plans for dinner? Grandma repeated with a hint of amusement in her voice. No, ma'am. I was going to order a pizza and finish going through some of my grandmother's things. Goodwill is coming in 2 days, and I want to have at least some of her things ready for them. Trey called as he nervously looked into my bedroom. Dinner will be on the table at 6:30. I suggest you get here at 6, my grandmother called out with a wink. Are you sure? Trey hesitantly asked. I knew that I was the reason why he hesitated, and I didn't care. He could not drop a bomb on me like he did and think that everything was okay. I heard that we have a few things to talk about, my grandmother said sternly but with love. Yes, ma'am. I will be over at 6. Is there anything that I can bring? Trey responded. He sounded like the little boy who used to chase me around the backyard of my house and his all those years ago. Just bring yourself and an open heart. Closing the window, my grandmother turned around and faced me. You have about 3 hours to pull yourself together and shake this mood you're in. That boy is coming over here, and the 3 of us are going to sit, talk, and figure this out. Making her way across my room and to the door, she stopped and turned to face me. Taking a deep breath, she added, I know you are angry right now. I also know that you are hurting over Merle's death. I need you to remember that however much you are hurting right now, Trey is hurting 1,000 times more. Merle was his only family. She was the only mother that he had. With those sobering words, my grandmother turned and made her way down the hallway towards the steps. Grandma, I called out after a few seconds, jumping up from my bed and running to the doorway that she was just standing in. Yes, baby. Do you have any of your sour gummies around? I asked. I know how much Trey loved them. He used to spend hours upon hours making them with our we used to spend hours upon hours making them with our grandmothers when we were kids. Now you know that I always keep a bowl around. They are in the pantry, my grandmother sassed at me as she started her descent down the stairs. Thank you. I will grab them and put them out in the living room, I said as I started to follow my grandmother down the stairs and towards the kitchen. Okay. Chapter 4. Let's see. Yeah, we're good. It's a novella, so I don't want to read too much. I'm trying to determine where I'm at. Ebony, you still on here, sister? Miss Ida, Miss Ada, I called out from the familiar front porch. The screen door was closed, but the front door was wide open. I could hear the sound of laughter coming from the back of the house, and it reminded me of a simpler time. A time from my youth when my grandmother was still alive. A time when we spent almost as much time in this house as we did in our own. I missed that and knew that there was no way that I could turn back the hands of time and get it back. I was stuck in the present without. Psst, you ain't been good enough, girl, or bad enough. Mm. I was stuck in the present without the only person who ever really loved me, and I honestly didn't know what I was doing. Walking over to the swing that I had spent many hours sitting on and thinking about my future, I couldn't help but remember something that my grandmother always used to say to me with a big old smile on her face. She said that Nina and I were meant to be together, that no matter what happened in the past, our future was always together. We were going to run the sugar shack together and one day pass it on to our kids. I never believed her, and now that I'm back in Allenville, I am positive that she got it wrong. I never saw Nina as anything other than an annoying pest who wouldn't leave me alone. She was always there. Even when I wanted to be alone, she was right there. Trey, Miss Ida gently called out from the screen as the screen door slammed shut behind her. I thought someone was out here. Walking quickly across the squeaky wooden planks of her front porch, she sat down next to me on the swing. Patting my lap, she said, It is so good to have you back home. It's weird being back here without her, I admitted to the only person who I knew would understand how I was feeling. I know, but this is your home. Your grandmother's spirit is in this town. I know that. I think that is why it's so hard for me. She's gone, but she's also still here. Grandma, where'd you go? Nina's voice drifted from deep inside of the house. Out here catching a breeze. Don't let my chicken burn. I still can't believe you invited him here for dinner, Nina yelled. The pain in her voice hit me hard, and I couldn't help the deep regret that started bubbling up inside of me. Quickly turning to face me, Ida shared. She is angry right now. She loved Merle too. I think we all need to talk and clear the air. Reaching out for my hand and giving it a quick squeeze, I was thankful for Miss Ida. She hates me right now, doesn't she? I asked, returning a gentle squeeze to Miss Ida's hand. She lost someone close to her, and you are trying to take away one of the last remaining pieces that she has to hold on to. No, that is not what I'm trying to do at all, I started. Looking into Miss Ida's kind eyes, I realized that she was right. I had messed up royally and didn't know if I could undo the damage that I had done. Trey, she loves you. She may not be ready to admit it, but I know my granddaughter. She has loved you since you were both knee high and running around chasing each other. Talk to her and make this right. I don't know if I can. I admitted. I really messed up and didn't have my grandmother here to help me fix it. Standing up, there she is. Standing up and looking lovingly at me, she added, "You still have me. Take a few seconds to get your thoughts together. Nina is still fuming. You are going to need a cool head to talk to her." She leaned over, placing a kiss on my cheek. "It is so good to have you home." "It's good to be home." "Are you home for good?" Miss Ida timidly asked. I didn't want to hurt her any more than I knew that I already had. "I don't know yet," I replied, hoping that it would be enough to keep the peace for right now. I honestly didn't know what my plans were anymore. I just knew that I had to make things right with these two women. They were the only family that I had left. "Don't take too long to come in, Trey. Dinner is almost ready." Walking across the squeaky porch, Miss Ida stopped to look at me with a tender smile before making her way in back into the house. Walking into Miss Ida's house, the memories of my childhood hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face as my eyes landed on the picture of my grandmother and Miss Ida sitting on the front porch shelling peas together. I remembered the day that picture was taken. Nina had just turned 8 years old and had gotten a camera for her birthday. She was running around taking pictures of everything and everyone. Miss Ida had told her more than a few times not to waste the whole roll of film. I just wanted her to leave me alone and get that stupid purple camera out of my face. "You better not be here to hurt my grandmother," Nina hissed at me as she walked into the entryway. Snapping out of my trip down memory lane and coming back to the present, I whipped around to see her. Looking at that woman standing in front of me, I never realized how truly beautiful Nina Logan was. With her warm chocolate skin, light brown eyes, and long curly brown hair, she really was a sight for sore eyes. The woman standing in front of me with a frown on her face was definitely not the little girl who used to follow me around when we were kids. "Nina, I'm sorry." "What did you just say?" she asked, losing some of the bite that was just in her voice. Tilting her head to the side, she studied my face. "I'm sorry. I messed up and I want to find a way to fix things." "The only thing that you can do to fix things is not sell the sugar shack," Nina said with a pleading eyes. "Let the boy come in and eat before you start attacking him," Miss Ida called out from the back of the house. I couldn't help the smile that returned to spread across my face at her words. I also noticed a smile on Nina's face as she took a deep breath and started making her way back towards the kitchen. One more chapter. Chapter 5, Nina. "Grandma, let me do that," I said as I walked into the kitchen and saw her moving all the dishes over to the table. Rushing to her side, I took the bowl of steaming collard greens out of her hands and placed a kiss on her cheeks. God, that's making me hungry. I love me some collard greens. "Girl, I am not dead yet. Leave me be." Turning back around to the counter, she grabbed a basket of homemade biscuits and brought them over to the table. "Everything smells delicious," Trey said from the spot he seemed to be glued to. "Now, you know if you want to eat, you're going to have to come sit at the table," my grandmother sassed with a wink. "Yes, ma'am," Trey said as he made his way quickly to the table, picking the seat directly across from mine. He looked at me with a question in his eyes. Letting out a deep breath, I nodded my head to him and went back to the counter to get the rest of the food. "Grandma, what can I get you to drink?" "Nina, why are you so mean? Trey, as our guest tonight, what do you want to drink?" "Do you have any sweet tea?" he asked as he continued to gaze at me. "We are in Allenville. Of course there is sweet tea in the fridge. Nina, grab the pitcher of tea and bring it to the table. Oh, Trey, I asked V to send over some of her donuts for dessert. Grandma informed him with a smile, sitting down in the seat next to Trey, the seat his grandmother used to sit in when we shared a meal together. Grandma gave his lap a playful slap. It has been forever since I had one of Miss V's warm old fashioned donuts. I think I miss them most of all, Trey said as his mouth began to water. I couldn't be mad at him. Miss V did make the best donuts in the state of South Carolina. It is so good to have you home. Turning her head to look at Trey, she added, This is all your grandmother wanted. My grandmother said with a smile. I knew that having Trey back home made her happy, but I just couldn't sit back and let him take away the last little bit of Miss Morrill that we had left. She would have never been okay with Trey's plan to sell the sugar shack. Grandma and Miss Morrill worked so hard to make that little store a success. People traveled from far away or just to for just a taste of some of the homemade goodies that we made in the small brick building on Ashland Avenue. I miss her so much. He started with an emotion filled voice. Snapping out of my thoughts and back into the present, I let my eyes wander over to Trey. He didn't look like the monster who was trying to take something so important away from us. He looked like a scared little boy who needed his grandma to make everything better for him. My heart broke for him, but my mind was still so angry with him. I know you do, Trey. We all do, Grandma interrupted. She could see how much he was hurting and wanted to ease his pain. I know if the roles were reversed and I had just buried Grandma, Miss Merle would do everything in her power to make me feel better. Feeling like I was intruding on their moment, I made my way to the fridge and grabbed the fresh pitcher of sweet tea. Don't be too hard on him, a familiar voice whispered in my ear, causing the glass pitcher to slip from my hand and shatter on the floor at my feet. Nina, Trey exclaimed as he jumped up from his seat and rushed over to me. Don't move. Let me grab the mop and dustpan, my grandmother said as she slowly rose from the chair she was sitting in, walking over to the mudroom right off the kitchen where the cleaning supplies were housed. My grandmother looked back at me with concern etched on her face. I don't know what came over me, I admitted as I looked back at my grandmother. Turning my attention to Trey, I asked, Why are you so concerned? It's just a little bit of spilled tea. Bending down to start gathering the large pieces of glass, I looked back up at Trey. There was something in his deep brown eyes that I couldn't put my finger on, but it caused a shiver to run down my back. Let me help you, he pleaded as he bent down to help me start to clean up the mess. Backing up to put some much needed distance between us, I assured him, I don't need your help. Just leave me alone. Nina Logan, that is enough from you. My grandmother roared as she walked back into the kitchen with the mop and dustpan. There are a whole lot of feelings swirling around in all of us right now, and you are not helping things with that attitude of yours. Dropping the mop on the floor, my grandmother grabbed her shoulder and fell to the ground. Not knowing what to do and frozen in place, I watched as Trey ran to her side and gathered her up in his arms. Miss Ida, Miss Ida, turning to look at me, she shouted, Call for some help. Guess what? That's where I'm stopping. Don't kill me. I read a third of the book. Don't kill me. It's only 99 cents. I thought so too. It is good. It's very good. All righty. Okay, so it's 99 cents or free on KU. Let's see if we had any bites today. I don't know if we did or not. Nope, we didn't have any bites today. Who's the fourth person on here tonight? Ooh, South Carolina, nice. Girl, you just making this whole big old series of this book in this little town. I remember Miss V and her old fashioned donuts too. And I think I remember Nina and Trey being mentioned in that book too. If I remember correctly. All right, ladies. Ugh. So, Nina, do I have a live read Sunday? Good, I can sleep in. All right, ladies. It's time to get off from here and go put my feet up because they're getting fat again. Oh, there's my hummingbird. I got right out my window here. I've got a double shepherd chick and I've got 2 hummingbird feeders on it. And I just sit here. This is why I don't get stuff done. I sit here and watch my hummingbirds all day. And from one hook to the other, like where it curls over, like right in this area in the curl, like the feeder's hanging down from here. And right here is a spider web. And I don't know if it was the spider or if it was a different bug, but that was a bug stuck in that spider web today. And this little female came up and she went, tss, 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 and she got it. And then she went over and she got her something to drink and she went off. Man, I'm working from home. I don't have my feet up like I would at work because I don't have it set up the same. And I'm getting ready to order me some compression socks to wear while I'm here at my desk. So, all right, ladies, have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Miss Ebony. It was awesome as usual. I love reading your stuff because I can bring out some of my Southern. So, all righty. We'll talk to you ladies later. Have a good night and happy reading.